Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Resident Evil 5 by Capcom. Resident Evil, arguably the most well-known survival horror franchise in the history of video games. Yet the 7th installment plays much unlike its predecessors. With a forced partner controlled by either a friend or AI, and a lot of classic Resident Evil style missing from the game, it seems as if the departure from the old ways could end with catastrophic results. Is Resident Evil 5 a good standalone game, or is it just another number in a series? 10 years after the events of Resident Evil, terrible viruses are still managing to take shape all over the globe, unfolding into hideous events just like that at Raccoon City. Life can't go on like normal in the African town of Kijuju when a weapons dealer named Ricardo Irving tries to sell a bioorganic weapon on the black market. It's up to Chris Redfield, a hero from the first game in the series, and his new partner Sheva Alomar to chase the terrorist down and stop him from making his sale. But along the way, the once peaceful inhabitants of the town and nearby countryside have succumbed to infection, and will do anything to feed off of the corpses of the game's two protagonists. Among the game's characters are several old favorites, and as far as Resident Evil Legacy goes, the narrative will not disappoint.
I think we're lucky to still be breathing.
Whereas survival is still very much at the forefront of the game, horror, it seems, has slipped away, replaced instead by a different kind of fear. You won't be shocked by dogs flinging themselves through a window or by the sudden appearance of a creature crawling up a wall to greet you unexpectedly with a maw full of razor-sharp teeth. Instead, the game lets terror linger. It shows you what you're up against and dares you to meet it head-on, while you debate whether or not to run away and try and catch your bearing. The game is played from the same over-the-shoulder perspective as its most immediate predecessor, Resident Evil 4. Combat is mostly the same as well, though a bunch of new guns, all upgradable, are available. The environment plays a huge part in the game as well. With hordes of mindless enemies shambling, crawling, and running toward you, you need all the help you can get. With that in mind, Capcom saw fit to give you a partner. Regardless of whether or not you play alone, you will have someone watching your back. Even if you are the lonely type and have to play alone, the AI does a good job of keeping you alive, and it doesn't hold a grudge if you don't do the same for it. The co-op nature of Resident Evil 5 also made for some interesting scenarios in-game which play out really well. Storage is a forced issue as well. While you have an endless amount of space and a trunk used between levels, each player can only carry 9 items at a time, requiring you to be smart with what you pick up and keep. Items are handled in real time as well, so if you need to use some first aid spray, you better make sure you do it fast unless you want to become zombie chow. While the style of the game doesn't scream classic Resident Evil, you can't argue against how great the game looks. The graphics are top-notch and lend themselves to the game very well. The music is also very effective in conveying a sense of urgency and setting a pace to the frantic combat and action sequences. The voice acting is top of the line as well. Some of the lines are pretty repetitive, but they are delivered flawlessly. Resident Evil 5 has a lot of different ways to tackle the opposition, so there are plenty of reasons to jump back into the action. Alongside this, though, is the addictive multiplayer. It's fun to see how much better you're getting at the game, and every different person you play with helps to provide a completely different experience. The game is also bolstered by the Mercenaries mode, which is just a compilation of a few stages where you try to kill off as many of your enemies as you can before time expires. This becomes even more fun when you play it with a friend. Some Versus modes were also released for the game as well, and though it costs some money to download them, you can have a lot of fun with them. There are also a good deal of unlockables and costumes that you can access if you find some hidden items or beat some of the game's modes under certain conditions, leading to a lot of extra time you can find yourself playing this game. There will be a lot of people who look at this game and scoff, because it doesn't seem like a true game in the vein of the Resident Evil series. Truly, if you stripped away the backstory and the title, this game would seem nothing like the games it has followed. With that said, however, Resident Evil 5 is a great standalone title. If you're willing to forgive your unfounded assumptions, and treat this not as a survival horror game, but as more of a survival thriller, you'll get more than your money's worth. Every Resident Evil game seems to be better than the last, and Resident Evil 5 is no different. That's Entertainment awards Resident Evil 5 a score of 9 out of 10.